Aitah for thinking my boyfriend was lying to me? This whole situation is just wild to me and I need some outside perspective. I feel like I am losing my mind. Buckle in, it's a long one, TLDR at the bottom. To set the scene, there's me F22 and my boyfriend M21 who we'll call Layden for effect. We've been together for 7 months at this point, one of which I was out of town for. As I personally feel this could be relevant, it's worth mentioning that Layden is bisexual. While I was out of town, he had some kind of spiral and wanted to break up with me. He put me in the position of both guessing what was wrong, and figuring out how to fix this unidentifiable problem. Somehow I performed a miracle, and figured it out and fixed it, or so he said. I came back to town 2 weeks later, spent a week at his apartment every day helping him pack, and then helping him move. The overlap between moving from his old apartment to his new one was a gap of 10 days. His parents live here too, not that I would know, since he won't let me meet them. He says it's because they're not involved in his life and are thus irrelevant to our relationship, and he went to stay with them for the 10 days. In the meantime, I took his 2 cats to my place since his parents are allergic. Over those 10 days, I barely heard from him or saw him, not even to check in on his cats. He works 2 jobs, so I understood him being busy. However, when I would try to make plans with him, he dodged around and wouldn't tell me when he was available. I've been patient and understanding the whole time, thinking he truly was that busy. But then I noticed that on the rare occasion he did have free time, he was making plans with his friends. I pointed this out, but it kept happening. The 3rd time it happened, that I was aware of, I got upset and asked how it was that he could make plans with his friends, but he couldn't make plans with me. It turned into a full-blown argument where he tried to make it out like I wanted to isolate him from his friends, which was not the case. I simply couldn't understand why he was able to make plans with his friends repeatedly, but never with me. Why couldn't he do both? We allegedly resolved it the next day, with his point of view being that we just saw each other and thus couldn't understand why I was upset, and mine being that I don't think helping him move is the same as choosing to spend time with me. Agreed to disagree. Over the next couple days he continued to act standoffish over text, but when I did manage to see him in person he acted and claimed that everything was normal. Then there's yesterday, I managed to make plans with him in advance and he claimed he had no other plans that day. Finally I go to his place in the afternoon and we watch TV and I told him I want to go to dinner that night. He asks what time, because he has to go help some people with something at 4:30. That's weirdly vague, so I asked what people? Help them with what? He tried to dismiss it but I wouldn't let him change the topic. Finally he says he has to go mow his parents' lawn. This is something he does frequently and something he has blown off our plans for before. When asked, he says that will take like an hour and a half, so I say, okay, so we can go to dinner after? And he says yes. We watch TV for a couple hours, during which he gets and answers a few texts from a friend. He keeps the phone tilted away from me when he does, but I can see the name. We'll call this friend Eric. Eric is coincidentally the friend Layden makes plans with the most. At one point I ask if the lawn really, unavoidably has to be done today. I am leaving town for a week the next morning, and I'd like to spend as much time with his as I can before I go. He simply says yes. He asks why I want to go to dinner and where. I give a specific place, one he said he wants to try before, and that I just want to go out and look nice. He says okay. At 4:15 he kinda shoos me out, and at the door I say, see you in a bye. And he says yeah, I'll text you. At 500 he texts me and says he's thinking he might take a rain check on dinner because his sister is cooking and really wants him to stay. I feel like I can't win. It's hard enough to actually make plans with him, but then when I finally do he bails on me? I can't win, I responded seriously? And he said yeah, is that an issue? At this point I feel like I am being tested somehow or baited into another argument. I say it's frustrating and he asks why. I say because we had plans and I am leaving town in the morning. He comes back with but we spent the whole day together? And I say both of my points still stand. He reiterates that he doesn't understand why I am upset. I wanted to see him today, and we did that, so what's the issue? Box checked. I ask if seeing him earlier in the day is meant to negate frustration over him canceling on me now. He says it feels like we're retreading the argument from before. However, that argument was about him hanging out with his friends but never spending time with me. That's different from ditching plans with me. After I point that out, he apologizes for ditching me and says he thought it was okay since we'd already seen each other today. I say okay. On to the crux of the issue. Our little text argument spanned from 500 to 600 because his response times were rough. I noticed at 530 his Snap Maps location put him at Eric's house. Maybe he stopped by Eric's on his way to his parents, and his sister had pressured him about dinner over text. It's plausible, but then his location stayed there for hours, not because of inactivity, either. Every time he went on Snapchat it updated his location with a timestamp. So I asked how the lawn mowing was going, and he said I have to wait because it's so hot. I asked what he expected at 430, no response. Another hour goes by, I ask what's your sister cooking? He takes a while to respond, but he does with a specific meal. Still plausibly true, she could have told him over text. I say sounds fancy, is it any good? Another hour goes by, still active in social media the whole time, before he responds and says it was decent enough. Now I feel I have confirmation that I have been lied to. I call him, he doesn't answer. I wait another 10 minutes and call him again. No answer. He texts what's up, and I say answer your phone. He calls me, I answer, and I ask if he finds lying to me in this situation funny. He says what do you mean? And I say you didn't go to your parents' house, and you didn't have your sister's cooking. He pauses for a second and says why do you think that? And I say because you have your location on Snap Maps and you've been at Eric's place this whole time. He pauses again, and says he went to his parents' house earlier. When? I ask. I don't know, like 430? I ask and when did you leave? He says 530. I don't believe him. I ask him to explain his thought process here, and he says he went to his parents, it was too hot to mow. His sister asked him to stay for dinner. He texted me and then ate, then left and went to Eric's. I say okay, so you knew I was upset you ditched me, and decided that now since you had a free evening after canceling our plans, you should go hang out with other people? Yes, that was his thought process. I point out that on 3 separate occasions this week he said he would spend the night at my place tonight. He says he still can if that's what I want. I say okay. He says they're about to go get food, but then he'll text you? I thought you already ate. He claims he wants a snack. Okay, whatever. An hour goes by, I ask for his Aitah. It is almost 10 p.m. at this point. He says about to get food, so probably an hour. I say 11 is kinda late. You can't be here sooner? And he comprises with 10:30. He shows up at 10:30 and asks if I want to watch TV. I say I am still upset. I think he lied to me, and this is contributing to the larger issue I've had all week in feeling like he doesn't want to spend time with me, and doesn't seem to give a about me or my feelings. We talk it out, he agrees to fix his communication style, and we're good again. He still denies lying and I still don't believe him, but I am okay with that. We watch an episode of TV and go to sleep. He gets up in the morning and leaves for work, but unlike usual, doesn't go to kiss me goodbye. I prompt him, he does, and as he walks out the door I say I love you and he says it back. An hour later or so I text and ask if he made it work and he says yes and asks if I've finished packing. I say not quite but I am close. I start driving, and over the course of the day send him a variety of texts he doesn't respond to, all at least an hour apart. This isn't unusual for him, and he said before that he appreciates that I keep reaching out even when he can't respond, that it makes him feel loved. It's still frustrating on my end because it feels like shouting into the void, and I was hoping after our conversation the night before he'd understand that I can't keep it up without overthinking. He leaves some random reels I send him on Insta on read. He doesn't respond at all until 11:30. We have a whole unrelated conversation about a job I am applying to, and at the end I jokingly say leaving my DMs on read is a hate crime. He says I am just not in the mood to read all that RN. I ask why and he says all of our arguments have taken a toll on him. I ask in what way? And get a couple paragraphs back. He says he's felt lately like there's a gap growing between us because our lives are complicated right now. And also that he's not trying to retread our previous argument, but that the fact I accused him of lying using Snap Maps as proof has made him realize this gap is not just in his head. I called him and asked what he meant by that. He says that by accusing him of lying I've shown I lack foundational trust in him, which he's mentioned for months is of the utmost importance to him. Usually when the idea of foundational trust has come up, he's tied it to cheating or cheating accusations. I maintain that I had every reason to believe he was lying and I don't think I was unreasonable in confronting him about it. He says he would have never done the same if the roles were reversed. I point out that it's not this one day that brought me to this level of frustration, it's a culmination, and if the roles were reversed he would feel the same way. Every single person in my life I've been talking this through with has said he's cheating, he's distanced himself from the relationship, he's trying to get me to break up with him first, or he's baiting me into giving him a reason to break up with me. Every single person. I say that of all the advice I've gotten from family and friends, I've taken the tamest, most reasonable path. He maintains I've shown a clear lack of respect and trust. I argue that I do trust and respect him on a foundational level, but in this instance had every reason to believe he was lying. This is not a foundational trust issue. I apologize for not going about it in a calmer, less confrontational manner, but I still don't think it was unreasonable. He disagrees. I say I am sorry. He says that's not what I need right now, and I ask what does he need then? He says this isn't going to be fixed by communication. I say how could it be fixed if not by communication? And he says I don't think it can. But I am too tired right now to mentally go down that path, so I am going to bed. I say okay. He says I'll talk to you tomorrow. I say okay. I've never made any accusations towards him before. I've always given him the benefit of the doubt, and processed any hurt feelings by myself. I have always assumed the best of him. We've never fought before this, because anytime he's done something upsetting I've reasoned it wasn't intentional and not worth the trouble. This week has been my breaking point though, and he knows it. I don't think I am in the wrong here, but maybe I am missing something. So now we're here, am I for accusing him of lying? TLDR, after 2 weeks of shady and behavior, I accused my boyfriend of lying to me based on a reasonable conclusion. He claims that this accusation was offensive and shows I lack foundation trust for him, and he's not sure how we can come back from that. Made a few edits to clean it up after calming down a bit.